Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pruning to Prosper. I'm your host, Gina Morton, and this is the podcast where we prune away all the things standing between you and the woman that God has called you to be. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Today, we have Tracy Hoth. She is a certified life and organizing coach on a mission to help women simplify their homes and their lives. As the creator of Organized Life Academy and host of the top 1% globally ranked Organized Coach podcast, Tracy equips women to declutter with confidence, create systems that last, and step into the role of organized life CEO. Tracy,
Ooh,
that sounds incredible. Thank you for joining us on Pruning to Prosper.
thanks for having me, Gina. I'm so excited to be here and talk with another decluttering, organizing guru, expert, whatever.
I know I think everyone loves talking about clutter and organizing. It's such a fun topic. So tell us real quick about yourself, where you're calling in from, and a little bit about your family and your background.
Oh, yeah. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. I've lived here for 30 years now. I grew up in Minnesota and lived in Texas too, but I have four kids. They're grown. So I had four kids in 5 years and now they're 21 and one's turning 27. My oldest is turning 27. So it's so fun to have them and I've been through every stage of their life. And I think when I first was had them little, I stayed home and I wanted to go do things all the time. And my friends were like, I gotta clean, I gotta organize. And one of my daughter's best friend's mom wouldn't let any of us in her house. And I hadn't really been with someone who, was like that. And so we were talking about it. And when my youngest went to school, I just was like, I can help people get organized. I can help them. So I started by helping this woman and decluttering her house. And like she would let my daughter back in her house now. And it's so fun to see like, anything's possible.
Yeah, we pretty much have the same exact story. Like,
Ooh.
I was a stay-at-home mom, and then I always just loved to organize and declutter, and I would do it for free for my friends. And then when my littlest one went off to school, I thought, you know what? Let me see if I can make a go of this. So
Yeah,
same, very similar. And I have four kids as well. Very similar. Funny story.
that's fun.
So, um, so today you're going to talk to us about downsizing. And so how do people actually, I want to say like, what's your typical client or like who's coming to you or like what are their big issues that that you hear most often?
Yes, I think it's women that are probably 50 plus who have too much stuff and they don't want to leave all their stuff for their kids. I think that's come to light and they want to downsize their house, they want to move, but they just don't know how to do it. They're overwhelmed and it's the decision-making process. I think that's the most challenging part. And they don't know where to start. I think we all have those thoughts like, I can't start. I have too much stuff. This is all too much. But yet they have that desire to live in a smaller house or to move or to get rid of it for their kids. And so they come and ask, what do I do? How do I do
Hmm.
it?
Yeah. So what do you tell them? Where do you begin?
Well, when I thought about how do I help someone, so I've been organizing for 17 years in people's homes, but
Hmm.
in 2021, I created a program called Organized Life Academy. And the goal is like, yes, we can't just expect that we're going to do the whole house in one time. So, what I've done is just break it down month by month and we focus on an area of the house. And I think, depending on your timeline, that's a great place to start because you see what the thoughts are that are keeping you stuck, like what's holding you back, what comes up when you put it on your calendar that you're going to work on a certain space, but yet you don't follow through, or maybe you don't even get it on your calendar. So there's so many little skills in there that we work on to get you consistent. And then you just take it space by space. And this is so weird. I have all these weird visuals, but I picture like a piece of paper with everything that we want to declutter in our house, like all the areas and all the things that we need to do. And it's so messy and just overwhelming looking at it. And I always think, let's take a piece of paper that's blank, put it on top of that, and cut out a little hole over the one thing we're going to work on. And now when we look at our piece of paper, we have one thing sitting there And that's what we're going to focus on. And it just makes my own shoulders just relax. And I feel so relieved. Like all I see is the one thing I'm going to work on. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's what we need to do more because our mind is like, oh, it's too much. And we see all of it at one time.
It is too much. And I think so when people join your program, I think a year is a really good, realistic timeline. I think, how do you feel about these shows on TV that portray it in a weekend? And you're just, I always say to my clients, like, turn off the TV. That's not real life, you know? And I, especially because on the TV, they'll go in and they'll just do it for the client. I think, how would I ever know what you want to keep and what needs to go? So I think that those kind of shows have really done a disservice to women that are trying to declutter because I think what you're saying is very realistic. It's a year, and I don't
Yeah.
know how people feel about hearing that, but you didn't get here overnight and it's not gonna be fixed overnight. And so do you let the women in your group decide where they want to start? Or are you saying like, okay, we're all doing the kitchen this week or this month?
I pick an area and I give them a
Mhm.
calendar for that month with things broken down, like what it might be the case. But then they get to decide every month. And so some of them have a specific thing they're already working on that they want to stay in that space.
Mhm.
But if they don't, they have a space, or they can choose something in the space that we've chosen for the month that they're going to do. So maybe they're not going to do the whole storage room, but they're going to pull out their holiday decor since it's November and go through the holiday stuff. But it's just deciding that in the beginning of the month, we have a planning call and they decide, we get things on their calendar, and then we see how's it going. And then we coach more on the mindset. And the women are like, I never knew it was the mindset, but the mindset is changing everything. And so if you've like for me, all those years when I decluttered and organized people, I didn't know anything about mindset. I
Mhm.
just went in and did the work with them. And when I got coach certified in 2018, I was like, this is blowing my mind. And then I still didn't think it was possible, for someone to do it on their own. They needed help. But then combining all the practical skill and steps of organizing with the mindset, it's been just magical to watch people change their lives.
Mhm. When you talk about mindset, what do you feel is the most impactful shift when
So
helping people declutter?
yeah, here's an example of one. So a woman's house was always disorganized. She always had a messy house. And she joined, started working in the area. I think we were on paper when she joined. And so she started doing that. It was a month or two in when she realized that she she was looking back at her childhood and she had never had a clean house. But she was looking at, we were pulling from areas that we are organized. And one of hers was how she plans vacations. She is meticulous about planning vacations. She's very organized at her job. So why is she not in her house? And she realized she didn't feel like she was worthy because she's never had a clean room. And she was told that, like, not that she wasn't worthy, but that, you can't keep your room clean. So she realized that she didn't think she was worthy of a clean house. And when she stopped and was able to just see that that's what her brain was telling her, and of course, she challenged it, it wasn't true. And now all of a sudden, just that shift, like, I am worthy and I'm actually organized. Like
Mhm.
that changed everything for her. And now she's decluttering, she's letting go, she's stepping into her new identities. Like she's past all her suits that she wore. She's letting go of that identity. And now she's moving forward and she's getting her house organized. And it's so fun. It's so fun to see people change.
It is. And is that a common obstacle that you have? Is it people needing to shed their former identity? Because if you're dealing with people that are in their 50s, they're probably coming into retirement and maybe they had a big, powerful job or something like that. And do you see women struggling with decluttering that part of who they were?
Yes. And that's why I think it's really important to look forward first and say, okay, where are we going? What are we going to do? What do I see myself participating in? Like, what kind of activities? Then you have this like flow chart filter sort of when you're making decisions because now all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm not going to be a painter. I'm not going to paint anymore, so I can let go of all those things. And that's what just happened. We have a 92 or 93-year-old woman. She is all of our inspiration. She's so active and she's
Mhm.
going through a closet that has a lot of painting. She used to paint a lot. So she has her artwork in there and supplies and she was just telling us, like, yeah, I keep thinking, but I might want to. And she's like, nope, I'm deciding. I am done with that identity of being an artist and painter, and I'm letting it go. And she's found people to give those, her supplies and the expensive paper that she had. And she even found people that wanted some of her artwork. And so it's so fun seeing her
Mhm.
let go of that. And it's challenging and being supportive where the community is just so supportive of that. And then she's moving forward into what she's doing next. And really for her, it's a lot about thinking about, okay, if something were to happen, what do I want to leave? Do I want to leave a mess for my kids with all sorts of stuff? Or how do I want it to be when I leave?
Right. And I mean, if she's 93, her kids are probably 70 almost, right? So you're leaving a major project to people that are probably also in the same season of life of downsizing. Like it's a lot of work to leave this
Yeah.
for your adult children. And I still have a 9-year-old, so it's a lot for me to think about if my mom leaves her house, like, oh my goodness, I have a whole other house I need to deal with. So I do think that is
Yeah.
um, it's very good to start thinking about your kids and what you're leaving them. But I liked what you said that about looking forward,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's a question that I I need to ask more often of my clients, and that is, do you think the best days are ahead of you or behind you?
Hmm.
Because I agree with you. If you're not looking forward to the next season, then no amount of a decluttering and perfectly organized home is going to help them. So,
Yeah.
how do you kind of coach your clients into believing that, yes, the best is still to come? And do you help them find new hobbies or think about who they want to be in the next chapter?
Yeah, and I think how we ask the question is super important. So I kind of call that powerful questions. So make
Okay.
sure we're asking our brain powerful questions. So even maybe a better question is, how will I create my future to be better, whatever, not better, but as good as the past? I
Mhm.
can't remember how you phrased it, but so okay, how do I create my future and what I want it to look like. And we don't have to go 20 years. Let's just say this year. What do I want to accomplish? And we can look at the wheel of life where we kind of think about our relationships. What do we want our relationships to be? What do we want our hobbies? What are our dreams? How do we feel inside? What do we want to be feeling? And look at some of those areas of our life and think, okay, I can see myself doing this and this. These are the two things I'm going to focus on this year, and I'm going to really volunteer in this one area. And so just kind of mapping out what we want it to look like.
Yes, we're very similar in our
Yeah.
approach. And I call it like let's begin in the positive. Like what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, and I think so many times people don't really know what they want. And so
Yeah.
they buy stuff without really a plan. They spend money without really a plan. They say yes to things on their calendar without really thinking it through fully. And
Hmm.
I think that that's why it's so good that you're a life coach, correct? You're also like
Yes.
a life
Yes.
coach, like because it is all tied together.
Hmm.
And okay, so one of the other hurdles I hear about a lot is the the investment financially that people have made. So for instance, the woman that did the art and she's got all these supplies, like I know that's not an inexpensive hobby. So how do you talk to your clients about the next season and who you want to be and letting go of this stuff that they may have had a great investment in?
I think bringing faith into it helps a lot. So thinking about, am I being a good steward of the things that's God's given me? And when it comes to what we've spent money on in the past and how expensive those supplies are, I think if we're going to be a good steward of those things, hoarding them, and that's an extreme word, but hoarding them selfishly to keep to ourselves, in the next 5 years, nobody being able to use them, or being abundant and generous and trusting that you're going to have everything you need exactly when you need it. And if you want to pick that hobby up again, trust that God's going to bring that before you. You can use a friend, you could join a class, you could do anything. But right now, how do you want to steward the things that you have in your life? And in a beautiful way, not to shame yourself for keeping things, but in a beautiful way as you walk with the Lord and you ask him, what do you want me to do next? What do you want me to keep? How can I be generous and let these things go and let them flow into the world and the right people find them? And what do you want from me? I think that makes it so sweet of an experience versus like gripping onto things and like, oh, what can I let go of? You know?
Hmm. I completely agree. I completely agree because I I hit a standstill with a client one time and getting back to real world situations. I'm working with people for sometimes a year, like it's like one Saturday a month for a year or, every couple of weeks for a year. Like it's way longer again than we see on television. But I always pray for my clients before I go to their homes.
Oh.
And I just kind of felt like we were at like I just felt like she was a little stuck. And I prayed before I went to her house and I just asked God to show me what I was missing, show me what am I not seeing here? And we always started our sessions with coffee. She liked to ease into it, have some coffee together first. And we would talk about our plan for the day and what we were going to do. And it came up in conversation that she was an atheist. And I thought, there we go. Like I struggled with like, how am I going to get through this? But I agree. Like, and that's why I do in-home decluttering like you do.
Uh-huh.
And that's secular. I'll work with whomever. But that's why my podcast is faith-based because I just felt like that does bring in that next level of responsibility
Mm-hmm.
of our lives. Like what are we called to do here? And I just feel like it does make it a little easier when you can fall back onto not what do I want to keep, but what does God want me to keep for the next
Mm-hmm.
thing He's calling me to do. And
Yeah.
that's for me why I went with the faith-based podcast because I didn't know how else to do it. I just thought like
Yeah.
I can make your house gorgeous, but if there's something missing, and I think yeah, what you said was just a beautiful way to let that decision be made more by God than by
Yeah.
us. It's really neat. So, do
Yeah.
you have any neat stories of people that have stepped out into faith and said, "I'm gonna, totally, let Tracy organize my life," and what they've done after they've worked with you or anything? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't give you a heads up on this question, but like, what are some of the breakthroughs or like I like the story about the woman that with the paper and she was telling herself that false story of like you can't keep a clean home. But what are some of the women doing that you've worked with that maybe they didn't even realize they were being called to do, but after working with you, they've, opened up that area of their heart and their life.
Well, one thing comes to my mind with a client. She's been with me for years, and now people are in it because they just love the community. They love each other, and it's kind of like an
Yes.
onion where you go through the first layer and then you go through the second layer. And she knows the steps. So she has the skill of organizing. She's really good at getting it on her calendar. She's going through every area of her home and she just keeps going through and letting go of more and more. And plus in life, things happen like her father lived with her and he's passed now and her son moved out. And so there's always things to go through. But the cool thing about her is now she's helping other people do it. And
Hmm.
so that just makes me so happy. So she's out there helping and other people too. That's what you hear. Like, oh, I went to a friend's and I helped them get organized. And I'm like, what? You are
Hmm.
helping others now with a skill that you at one point felt overwhelmed with and overwhelmed by.
Hmm.
Another story comes up where a woman downsized and she had to do it quickly because they found their dream house in the neighborhood that they wanted. And so she had to do it fairly quickly. I don't mean, it was a couple months, but it was so challenging for her. And that's something that people have to be willing to feel that discomfort in their body when they let something go. So it is hard to make that decision. And how can you support yourself in the decision that you make later so that you're not, because you can feel regret that you got rid of something, but it's only because you're thinking a thought. So once you make the decision, you have to be intentional that the thoughts you think about it make that decision right, which I love. That maybe kind of wooey or something, but I love thinking about that. And so she went through and downsized. It was really hard and challenging. But the one thing she says now is that she looks back and she doesn't miss a single thing. She can't even remember the stuff that she downsized. And I think about that. We can spend our life in a home or in a space that's full of stuff because we have a hard time making a decision. So we're in the discomfort of living in a space that we always feel like we should be doing something with. Or we can live in the discomfort temporarily of letting something go and trying it out and seeing how it feels, and then be living our dream after that. So she's in her dream home. She's helping her daughter go through some stuff. She's even
Mhm.
going further and going through more spaces in her house now and letting go of more. So it's just amazing to see people move forward and then to be able to witness it with each other because we see what the other person has been able to do. And I'll tell one last one. Recently, one of the women's father passed, and she was a caregiver for him. And that part in itself was super challenging. But what was kind of cool too, I'll share this. Another lady in the group was getting her chaplaincy in, oh, what's it called? Um, Hospice. So she was getting her
Oh.
chaplaincy and practicing in hospice, and she was able to minister or help or encourage the person giving the caregiving. Well, then the dad died, and she was able to go through his house and put it on the market to rent in 3 months time period. And it was because of what she learned during her time practicing the skills of organizing and working on the mindset of it. And the one thing she said to me was, Trace, because I was like, what can I do to help? Like, what do you need? And she said, just make sure you tell people, do this work now. Like, don't wait, do it now. Because you don't want to leave your kid all that stuff, plus the grieving part of losing your parent and going through the stuff. So she was just like, please keep telling people we're doing this work. It's so important. And I think about that, even if you have young kids at home, you can be starting the process now. And
Mhm.
because something could happen to you now. And, what kind of house and legacy do you want to leave?
It's very true. I love that you said you didn't shy away from it is uncomfortable. There is
Mhm.
definitely discomfort. Um, there's a great book I read a few years ago, and I'm not going to be able to think of the title, but he kind of touches on that too, where it's like, do you want the short-term discomfort or the long-term discomfort? And I'll use the example with my clients a lot of times as the, let's say the homeroom teacher, she asks you to be the homeroom mom, and you're just like, oh my God, my plate is so full. There isn't 1 minute I could give to this classroom. And you're dreading it as she's asking the words, but you don't want to disappoint her. So you give the easy answer for the moment is yes.
Mhm.
And then you go to the parking lot and you sit in the car and you think, what have I done? Now you've given yourself long term discomfort because you have agreed to something now for a year that you really don't want to do, versus as the teacher's asking you and you think, I'm going to say no, I'm going to disappoint this woman. And so you say no, but then you get to the car and you're like, whew, dodged that one, you know? And now you've given yourself the long term comfort. And I
Right.
think that I love how you said that you can choose the short term discomfort or the long term discomfort.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really good question to kind of ask ourselves as we were decluttering is like, is this gonna, and it's true, like we sit in these homes surrounded by all this stuff for 20, 30 years because we don't want to make these short-term decisions of like, ooh, can I part with this? And we'd rather just sit versus like moving on to a home that's really working for us and systems in place that really help us to be an organized mom or, homemaker. Um, One of the things that you were talking about early on in the conversation was how you love to do things with your kids when they were little. And I always think that an organized mom gets to be a more fun and spontaneous mom because she's got her act together. It's like, oh, the kids want to go to the pool. And an organized mom can be like, all right, let's go to the pool versus the mom that opens the trunk and she's like, oh, geez, the towels are still in here from last week. you know,
Yeah.
it happens. It's not to say like, we all have to be perfect at all times. But like, I think when you have a system of coming home from the pool, you put the towels in the washing machine and the dryer, and then they're ready to go for the next time. Like, I just feel like there's so much more to life that we can experience when we do have it together. So, like, is there anything else you can offer to women to give them that push to like kind of push through the discomfort to live out on the other side, a life that's really who they were called to be?
Well, when you were talking, the thing that comes to my mind is when I was going into people's homes and helping them, I could also not be organized if I had as much stuff. Like, I think it's the decluttering, what you help people do. The decluttering part is so important because they think that they're not organized, but they really are organized. They just have more stuff than they can manage. And so I think that's key is like you could find areas in your life where you're organized. You just have more stuff than what's possible or what's manageable. And so start there just by letting things go. In the decision of letting things go and making that decision becomes so much easier when you have little rules set up. So you need to have a destination in your GPS. You need to know where you're going and then set up little rules ahead of time like what's a okay amount of jeans to have? Like, oh, I could live with, let's say, six. And so then when you go through it, you're like, okay, six jeans, which is my absolute favorite, which is the next favorite, which is the next favorite. And it's so much easier then to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to, when you're first starting this, go ahead and to calm the discomfort that your body's feeling about letting something go, put it in a temporary holding spot with a date on the box sealed that says let go if you haven't opened it. Like that in the beginning is really helpful to just let your body experience the feeling of discomfort, put it in a spot, put it on your calendar that you're going to drop it off in 3 months or whatever time. And then you have that like, oh, my body relaxed after that. Oh, I'm thinking thoughts that support the decision that I made. I'm looking to the future and keeping my eyes forward. I'm talking with the Lord saying, I want to be a good steward. Help me be able to trust you and let these things go. So it's this process that you can work through. And I like how someone said it's a practice. This is a practice. Organizing is a practice, and you're going to get better and better at it.
I agree. I always tell people, don't buy any bins or baskets or anything cute until I've been gone for a few months because it is like it's a muscle. And like you're saying, like that onion is being peeled back, and you do start to really refine who you want to be in that next season of life. And you're just like, you know what, future Gina, or like, I like how you said just a year. Like, we don't need to overthink it. What are
Yeah.
we going to do for the next 20 years? I like how you said 1 year. Okay, what do I want to do in this next year? And what are we going to keep to support that next 12 months? I love that because I think it's very manageable. Even for me, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking like, okay, what do I want to do in the next year? Like I want to, get into shape. I'm doing this 12-day backpacking trip in 2027.
Ooh.
So I'm just like, right now, I'm like, I have to get in shape. Like I have to be able to carry a 40-pound pack, through the mountains. And so I'm like, okay, I want cute workout stuff because I want to be motivated to work out, and like I said to my husband the other day, I was like, I don't really like any of my workout clothes. He's like, treat yourself to something cute. Like, you
You
know,
have the best husband. He's like,
I
go
know
do
he
that.
al-
Yeah.
he does always support whatever I'm like up to,
Mine
whatever.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. But yeah. So tell us, I want to hear more about your coaching program. So tell the listeners, so you do in-person decluttering, is that correct for the
I do not do any in person anymore. I quit
Okay.
like 2 years ago and I just do online. So I have Organized Life Academy, which is my online program that people can join. They commit to a year. It's
Hmm.
very like I think it's the best deal ever. They can get in there. We have live coaching calls. We have a planning call every month. We have coaching calls that really dig into the mindset, and seeing other people get coached is so powerful, and working on that yourself. And then I always have an expert guest. I think you're going to be one of my expert guests next year, so I'm so excited about that. And and then we have a community online. So lately, I've created the 15-minute declutter challenge, and I gave it to the ladies and said, "Let's do this. Everybody do it. Take before and after pictures." And now we have a Voxer community, which is just an app online. And so they're posting before and after pictures. They're inspiring each other. It's just so exciting that they are realizing how much they can get done in 15 minutes. And so it's been fun to see that part of it. But yeah, it's our community and we love it. We have a live event every year that they're invited to be a part of. And it's just been really, really good. I'm starting my 6th year in 2026. And so
Wow.
for a
So
while,
the live event, does that mean they come to Missouri or something, or do you pick a
yeah, they
location,
come
a
to
different location?
Kansas City. It's our
Oh,
third
wow.
annual. So it's a little retreat, and we
Mhm.
do coaching in the morning and teaching on a topic. And then in the past, we've had an activity that we went out for. Last year was such a it was so fun. We did mosaics. And so we talked about how mosaics is kind of like organizing and decluttering, because you gather all the things you think you might need and then you shed off those and decide what you're putting on your palette. And so it was really cool how it tied into organizing. But then we have another morning of teaching and coaching.
Wow. That sounds so fun. And
Yeah, it has been fun.
I do agree with you that the women that sign up for my group coaching, it really is a lot more about the community. I think that's one of the things that I am finding is that women are lacking in community and friendships, and it gets hard. I think the older you get, the harder it gets to make friends. And I think if we could bring these women together, under the guise of decluttering, and
Yeah.
it's still like, but we're all on the same journey, if you're working on decluttering your home, your life, and um,
Yeah, and it makes it fun too. Like when I am
mhm,
going to do something, reach a goal, I want to be, I want to join something. I want to be with other people that are doing the same thing. It just makes
mhm,
it fun. And I want to invest in it, because when I invest in it, it's going to make me commit to doing it. I always say
yes.
I'm 100% all in. I'm going to try to be the best student. I'm going to try to show up. Like I'm going to be there. Um, and it makes it worth it, and it makes it really fun, and it helps me reach my goal.
I agree. And it's the accountability too. Like people just need,
Mm.
to say like, all right, come on, we're all doing this today. And I think it sounds like a really fun community that you're building over there. So we will have all of that information in the show notes for people if they want to listen to your podcast. Is there anything else you want to tell us about downsizing, and, any other tips or steps that you want to share with us to make it a little bit attainable for people that don't have you in their life?
Yes, I think that knowing the steps to get organized, and everyone has their acronym that they teach.
Hmm.
But once you know, mine spells the word space. Once you know the steps, you can get organized anywhere. And I'll close with a
Hmm.
story that I was helping someone organize her garage, and it was like literally a wall of stuff. She wouldn't even let me go inside. She only opened the garage doors, and she's 10 years older than me. And we're standing there completely overwhelmed because I'm thinking there is no way that her and I are going to do this. And this was before I knew anything about thought work or mindset. And
Mhm.
I felt overwhelmed because I was thinking that thought. Well, we're standing there and she's waiting to pay me. She's waiting me to take charge, waiting for me. And so I had to say to myself, Tracy, the first step to organizing is to sort. Go get one thing. So I walked forward and I grabbed, it was like a can of paint, and I said, okay, paint supplies are going to go here. And she did the same thing as me. And we completely sorted the garage, her and I. And so I think if you're out there and you're listening and you're feeling overwhelmed, notice it's because you're thinking, like, it's all too much. I don't have time. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. And so
Mhm.
think to yourself, I know the steps to get organized. You know the first step. The first step is to sort. I tell myself all the time that one sentence, and it helps me feel focused. And I start picking up one thing and sorting it.
Yeah, it's so true. I think maybe people think that you and I are always like calm, cool, and collected, but I have walked into homes where I'm just like, oh boy. Like, but you just same thing. I just think, okay, Gina, like if I'm overwhelmed, like can you imagine living here? And I just think we're here to help. And like I do the same thing. I'm like, we just pick up the first thing.
I
Is it
know.
trash? Are we keeping it? What is it? You know what I mean? And then you just get started. And then I always say like then the muscles start to flow and you hit your stride and it does get easier. It's that initial go on in and begin. Like I
Yeah.
did I think my next podcast episode is a live decluttering. And when we got on the call together, she was like, I'm just not feeling it, Gina. And I'm like, and as soon as someone says it to me, then I'm just like, oh, me either. Like, let's just chit chat for an hour and call it a day. But then I was like, no, come on. Like, I need this episode recorded. So let's do this. And within like 5 minutes, she's going and going. And then by the end, she's like, I got to go. I got to get to Goodwill before the kids get home from school. And like, and I think like you just have to get started. You just have to pick up the first thing and just make a decision. And then, motivation is not going to strike. That's why I think people are like, I'm just going to wait for motivation. It's like, no, like you said, put it on your calendar. When are you going to do it? Maybe call a friend or join Tracy's group, get some accountability going, and it'll happen little by little.
Yeah, who said we had to feel like it? But
Right.
we also could shift to feel that desire. We could be like, hold on, this is going to be amazing. This is going to look so good. I want to do this. I'm choosing to
Hmm.
do this. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
fun.
it's very true. And yeah, little by little. And so yes, thank you so much, Tracy, for coming on the podcast today. Is there anything else you want to tell us? We can find you on, I'm sure where all podcasts can be found.
Yeah, the organized coach, and then download my 15-minute declutter. It's at simplysquaredaway.com is the name of my business /declutter.
I love it. And I'll have all that in the show notes for you guys. So you can be sure to follow up on all the things that Tracy offers and make sure you listen to her podcast and leave a review. All
Yeah,
right. Thanks so much, Tracy.
thanks.